Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone in between, welcome back to the Drawing Board, episode 6. Now, we've crossed episode 5 mark, closer and closer to episode 10. I'm
Dude,
not really
we're
sure where I'm
actually
going
getting
with
pretty
this.
consistent.
Consistency is key.
Welcome back. As Mac, or now as you guys know him, Hazifa has said, the sixth episode, we're trying to be really consistent. I'm Christian. Again, we have a very special guest. He's been here once before, but we're so happy to have him. Say hello, Navaraj.
Hi, I'm back.
We tried to kill him,
Okay.
but he is
They
unkillable.
tried.
Yo, special announcement. We have surpassed 100 all-time podcast plays.
Wait, really? Huge.
Yeah,
Yeah, man,
107,
don't
dude.
tell.
Let's go. 107.
All right.
That's sick.
So
Uh,
I've watched each episode 20 times. So basically, 7 people. uh,
One of those 7
No,
is
but-
me. I watched 2 episodes.
I've
Okay,
watched
well
so-
listened.
So if we counter in our parents, basically it leaves one person who might have potentially watched it. No, but jokes
And-
aside, though, honestly, I think like this is kind of sick. Like that we're like pretty consistent now. We're getting like a decent amount of views. I mean, the views were never like important, but just like I don't know. I feel like it's just cool, like the 100 mark of the number.
Yeah, and as long as there's like one person viewing it, like okay, you guys know about like the butterfly effect, right? Like this, like one person viewing the podcast could change the world. Like we're essentially like world changers just because of making this podcast.
I like your optimism.
It's not optimism, it's just facts, honestly.
Based.
And speaking of changing the world, today's podcast topic, although not very concrete, is going to be future predictions. And I'll ask you guys a question regarding that. Like, okay, let's start with 10 years.
Ooh,
In 10 years, actually no, let's start with 1 year. In 1 year, like, what do you think your life will look like, and what do you think like society will look like? Do you think it'll be any different? Yeah.
1 year, honestly, I think personally, like there's not going to be much difference in my personal life. Like obviously, just like still be in university. I don't see anything like coming up for myself that would make that substantial of a difference in how I am living day to day. I feel like also like on a global scale, 1 year is just so small. Like politically, I guess you can say that there would be some changes. Like when is the U.S. political
the
election?
U.S. election will be in 24 and November. So if we say like 1 year from today, it would have already like the next president would have been inaugurated by now.
Oh,
I
interesting.
believe.
Oh, in that-
Wait. Sorry,
No, 'cause it would've been-
I'm mistaken.
It'd be
It'd be
January
2025.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm wrong. Yeah, I'm sorry. So it wouldn't have even started yet then. It would have been it would
Yeah.
have still been like brewing. We would know the candidates. We'd know the primary candidates.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, honestly, not much on a global political or economic scale either. I mean, I can't see anything at least. What about you?
Like, wait, try and predict like at least like one new trend, right? Like trends are on the order of months. Like
Well, that's really hard to do.
Yeah, I think
Try
that's
and
the problem
predict
with trends. Trends are so hard to predict. You know what I mean? Especially because like pop culture is so vast. Like, say for example, like things that I'm into, like I don't know, like YouTube boxing, whatever, right? Like I could like try to make a prediction of like which direction that's gonna head in, right? But then like it's such a niche thing, and it's like okay, well, sure, like I can make a vague prediction, but it's like difficult on a 1 year scale. I'm not sure. Do you have anything in mind, like any trend or pop culture prediction? Either of you guys?
I actually do. So you know, because you're right. Like my personal life's probably not gonna be very different. But the one of the things is recently, in terms of popular like media, the teaser for like the second season of Invincible dropped recently, and so that'll be out like a year from now. And I
Okay.
assume that'll make Amazon a pretty big splash. And I'm pretty sure The Boys is also getting ready to like launch their like 4th season. I think it is now.
Okay.
So
Bit of a tangent from the predictions thing, but I think Invincible is maybe the most overrated television show I have ever watched. I think it's absolute hot garbage. Two episodes, and I don't know.
I'm not gonna lie. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm not gonna lie. I honestly 100% agree with you until episode 7 and 8. That like
Yeah,
made
like
it a 6.5
episode
out
seven
of
and
10
eight
for me.
were great, like no
Yeah.
doubt. But the episodes before that, like I genuinely think I would rather have watched just some random like kids show off like Cartoon Network airing that my sister would watch now. You know what I mean? Just like it was so bad. Like the characters were like, I swear they're purposely written to be as obnoxious and
Amber.
unbearable as possible. You know what I mean? Like it's just like how do you sit? I was genuinely considering quitting the show just because of how painful that 4 episode stretch from like 1 to 5 or 1 to 6 was.
Yeah, same. No. Like well, 6 was the one that almost made me drop it. It was the
Oh my god,
college
was
like
that the
one.
one with?
It was the one
Yeah.
where
Oh
she's
my
like,
god,
I'm
that was so
she's like,
bad.
I've known forever, and then she like, because she got upset at him earlier in that
Yeah.
episode for um uh like running away and leaving them all like be. But if she knew it was him the whole time, that he was there, so
Yeah.
now
It
it's
was.
become she's upset that he lied to her for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Absolutely
Regardless,
abhorrent. Have you watched it,
yo,
Krish? Have you watched
No, I
Invincible?
haven't watched. I haven't watched The Boys or The Invincible. But I think from my experience, the best Amazon like TV show is probably Jack Ryan.
I've
I've
watched
never
the
watched
first
Jack
season of
Ryan.
that. I've watched the first season of that. I have not. I've started the second. I never finished it. I
I
watched it
wasn't in.
mainly for John Krasinski.
Yeah, I wasn't an invested viewer, but like my friends were watching it, and like it seemed like very well put together. Sometimes I look at like Netflix shows, and like I'm no critic by any means, and I don't
Mhm.
understand anything but like shows, but I
Hmm.
can sense bad acting, bro. Like you can just
Oh,
tell. So,
Yeah,
definitely,
like this
it's
definitely.
stuff,
not
like
very difficult.
so.
Yeah.
I mean, like shows are built for the average person, right? They're not built for critics. So if you, as an
Oh
average
yeah.
person, think the acting is bad, you're right. Like it is bad acting. You know what I mean? Because
Oh,
like you don't have to
oh,
be a
it's
critic to
interesting.
sit there and be like, oh, from my sophisticated aristocrat view, this is a poor acting shown by John Krasinski in this. It was like, okay, I'm just some random hobo, and I think this is bad acting. What are you gonna do about it? You know what I mean? And I'm right. The
That's
show is built for me.
also
Oh, that's facts.
uh, that's also why I think some films, like for example, I know both you and myself, Mohammed, were very excited for this Christopher Nolan film. It was Tenet, and
Mm,
Tenet was so confusing in the way it was presented that like
yeah,
even myself who like I really like to delve into like the nitty-gritty of like a
100%.
film and its making, I had a hard
I
time
can vouch
understanding
for this,
it.
Tenet
by
is
the way.
so frustrating. Like
Yeah,
you want to think because like Christopher Nolan generally has like very solid movies, right? And he does well with the whole like mind fuck style of movies where it's just like, oh, like damn, I did not see that coming, and like you genuinely
Inception,
are in bed. Yeah,
The Dark
Inception. Well, it
Knight,
was yeah, Interstellar
Dunkirk,
was a was
Interstellar.
Interstellar was done. You
Bro,
know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but there's always like something that like kind of throws you off a little. Like for example, I think Inception is slightly overrated. I think like the
Hmm.
plot kind of gets lost in itself, and I think Tenet is like the epitome of that. I think
Hmm.
that it tries so hard to, and I maybe like Krish will come in and defend it here. I think from what he said earlier, but like it tries so hard to be sophisticated, and I genuinely watched that or rewatched it like multiple times just to try and think, okay, am I missing something? Is there something that like is cool here that I just don't get, and I just don't see it.
Yeah,
bro,
I
I
I'm
think
think
not
it's
I
gonna
have
just
lie.
similar thoughts.
I feel like a TV, like a movie virgin. I haven't seen Interstellar. I haven't seen Tenet. Like all these things are left for me.
Dude, Interstellar made me cry. Like genuinely, it was
Whoa.
Interstellar was genuinely very good.
You know
Interstellar
what a
was really
genuinely
good.
really good movie was? I'm not
Which
even
one?
joking. Puss in Boots
Oh,
2.
yeah, I know you better say. Dude,
Dude,
I
it's
actually I need to
so
hop on
good.
this. I
I gotta
actually need to
watch
hop
that,
on
dude. I
this.
like the
It's
villain looks really
so
cool in that
good.
one.
Yeah.
Wait,
But oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so like there's a story like the reason why it's even more special, like Puss in Boots 2 is the first Puss in Boots, okay, when it came out, I was 12.
Hmm.
Okay. Or no, I was younger. Or maybe I was around 12. But like basically my dad took like me and my friends out to Boston Pizza, and then we went to watch Puss in Boots. And then when we were coming home on my 12th birthday, okay, we got
Hmm.
into like a massive car accident.
Oh
Like I
shit.
had
Oh
like
shit.
glass like stuck in my head, like I had amnesia for like
Oh
days.
wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
like it was
holy shit.
I didn't
it
even know
was
this happened.
crazy. And it's like the only thing I could remember was like Puss in Boots. Okay. Like,
No.
it was the
Wait, so
first one
Puss in
was
Boots Lee became a core memory for you because
it
of
was
that car accident.
actually a core memory to the sense that like my only memory.
Yeah.
And then it's like Puss in Boots 2 comes out, like I go driving, like, maybe like some like shadowy things are going on in the back, and then it turns out to be an absolute banger movie worth like the amnesia, probably like future dementia that I got from it. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
like I
You know
enjoyed
what?
it. Let's
that
hop on.
that actually makes a lot of sense that like you remember it so well. It's like I was reading or not reading, but I was watching Dr. Andrew Huberman, and he was saying that like memory basically works in the way that if you have an adrenaline or uh, basically adrenaline or cortisol like spike right after you learn something, you're much more likely to remember that. Because if you think about it evolutionarily, right? Like if you see like a tiger and like you realize that it's like a threat to you, your adrenaline and cortisol is gonna like spike at that moment. So your brain's gonna want to remember what it was that just gave you this threat. Obviously, in the modern world, we're not like threatened every day by things that we want to remember, but like the principle can still be applied from like a biohacking standpoint.
Isn't that why people so vividly remember where they were on 9/11?
I mean, that's probably part of it. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting. How
because
like how does this relate to like PTSD, like erasing your memories? Because I'm sure there's also high cortisol there too.
from what I can tell, like from what I've read, it's usually a defense mechanism.
Yeah, it's probably some like there's like a line that has to be like balanced. So like at a certain point, it's gonna be like beneficial evolutionary for you to remember this threat, and at some point, it's so traumatic for you to even remember the event that your body's gonna try and like block off the memory completely. It's probably like PTSD crosses that line, and then like a general like adrenaline spiking event that doesn't cross it.
Right.
Don't scratch
Makes
the
sense.
wall.
Yeah, but going back to movies, I guess like I don't know, like, do you think like keeping like what I was gonna say is like it's so hard to keep up with like all like the different like movies and TV shows that are coming out, and I feel like I'm losing out on a part of like pop culture that like I want to be a part of and like talk about in the future, like reminisce on like when I'm older. But like, how do you guys think like do you think it's important to like select what you like give your attention to in terms of consuming media and like where you spend your time that way?
There's like one kind of interesting like part of this that sucks for us as we get older. And I
Mm-hmm.
guess it rang true for like our parents and their parents, but like there's this movie debt that we build up over time.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is like we watch at least the first version of everything, and new
Yeah.
versions will come out over time naturally. And like we're in like a lot of people say like we're in sequel hell. Like barely any original movies are coming out. It's all sequels.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But the thing is, even if original movies do come out, like we're doomed to watch sequels over and over again because we were the like original ones to watch the first version. So like I think that's the one like sad part. Like I wish more like original movies and not sequels would come out.
Yeah, I guess that's also a problem with like the way Hollywood works in general is like they know that if a original movie was successful, whatever like the pre-sequel was, if that movie was successful, then more likely than not the sequel will also be relatively successful, and it's like a guaranteed way to make money. Whereas taking on a brand new project with maybe like a smaller actors or smaller director, smaller actors that could potentially become like an all-time historic movie, but like it's risky at the same time from an economic standpoint. So I guess like the money aspect kind of ruins pop culture and movies in that way.
The from how you guys are talking, it almost feels like you were kind of alluding to like the dominance of the cinematic universe trend.
Hmm.
And I mean we've witnessed in my opinion like Marvel's steep downfall. I know there's quite a lot of people who are still like fans of Marvel, but I'm pretty sure since WandaVision, I think there's only been a single Marvel property out of like the MCU that I've personally like
Yeah,
higher than a 5 out of 10 rating.
yeah. Marvel has
Uh,
definitely fallen off a cliff.
So I'm
That's a
saying
very good example.
DreamWorks Cinematic Universe is better than Marvel's Cinematic Universe.
Yo, that's facts.
Honestly, pound for pound, I'm taking DreamWorks, bro.
Yeah, like they have
Like
Shrek. Like, yeah,
they got Shrek. They got How to Train Your Dragon, dude.
yeah,
Oh
Puss in
my God, How to Train
Boots.
Your Dragon?
Puss in Boots. Look,
Yes.
I'm just saying, all that. I'll take all that over Phase 4 any day of the week.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
what even is the problem with Phase 4? Because like they seem to be using the same formula that they did like originally, and it's not like we had established characters at that point early. Like if we look back to Phase 1 with Iron Man 1, Captain America, I mean obviously Thor wasn't that great and Hulk wasn't that great either. But like there was some failures, but there was also some like beloved movies in there, right? And it seems to be that they're using the same or like a similar formula here, but like they're just not executing well at all.
So as someone who has like delved a lot into the MCU and like the first real movie that I can remember watching was Iron Man.
Hmm.
So it's always been very close to my heart.
Yeah.
From what I can gather, because you're correct, in 2008, who the hell knew who Iron Man was?
Yeah.
Like, like let's be honest, right? Like he was like a B tier superhero in terms of
Yeah.
like
Definitely.
Marvel's catalog. People in Marvel knew the X-Men and they knew Spider-Man because Spider-Man, well, Spider-Man, and the X-Men
Yeah.
had a pretty popular like films before.
Hmm.
And to my knowledge, it, I just don't think they care anymore about the MCU. Like Iron Man 1 was like a passion project. Like they got Robert Downey Jr., who when Iron Man 1 was filmed had like just gotten like he had just been won his battle against like I think it was like drugs that
Yeah.
he like went
Yeah.
to prison
Addiction.
for it. And
Hmm.
he was like on the blacklist. Like you didn't hire him. And like
Yeah.
John Favreau took a risk bringing on Robert Downey Jr. onto that project for Iron Man. He revived his career with it.
Hmm.
And like Chris Evans was also relatively unknown in Captain America, and like that one, in my opinion, Captain America was a good film, and even Thor had its moments. Uh,
Yeah. Thor 1 wasn't nearly as bad
yeah,
as Thor 2.
but we fast forward to Phase 4, and even like near the end of Phase 3, with Black Widow, and how I believe the script for Black Widow was completed in 13 days, if I recall. Let me double check.
Wow.
Let me
Dude,
fact check that.
script writing and like book writing in general is like
11 days.
crazy
Sorry.
fast, like
Well,
way faster than people like would imagine.
yeah, but like
I
11 days is not enough to make a coherent and like emotionally gripping story that I want to think about after I watch it.
mm.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah, that's like a good metric. I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been you, Krish, who like tweeted about this a while ago, where you were saying that like the judge of how good um what's it called, like like any media you consume is like how long you remember after that fact. So for example, like you can watch 100 TikToks in a day, you probably won't remember any of them. Maybe you'll remember one that was like very funny, but like a YouTube video is like a step up from that. Well, you might remember like most of the videos you watch, but you can't go into detail. And then a movie is like the peak of that like ladder, where it's like you'll probably remember a movie long after you've watched it in detail.
Right. Yeah, yeah. That was me. That's why I'm a big
Yeah.
believer in like measuring time, like with like memories per unit time, like
Hmm.
or like measuring like like how fulfilled your life is by memories per unit time. Like were you living at like 3 memories an hour? That's actually a lot. Were living at like 3 memories a day or like 6 memories a day? You know, like
Yeah.
um yeah,
Honestly, I
like
think most people operate like way below that line. Probably living
yeah,
at
yeah,
like
wait,
three memories a week, if that.
Well, that's just because
yeah.
of the way that like our our media and like the way that we live our lives today, really.
Dude, it's actually terrible. Like people compare TikTok to how newspapers were, but it's not even close.
Well, because with a newspaper, you got to sit down and in your little comfy chair by the fireplace. You got to flip it open, and then you have to
Mm.
like read and engage with the material if you want to understand a newspaper. And even then, like, where would you read your newspaper? You read it on a park bench, surrounded by people walking their dogs. Like playing in the field, actually in your home. With your family sitting across from you. Like you're
Yeah.
not isolated either. You're still experiencing the world around you. Like I can sit on my toilet and like scroll through TikTok for like 30 minutes. And like it is always I always feel awful afterwards, like I'm wasting my time, which because I am.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of a meme, but like the scariest part is like when you see it in yourself, have like or like you see in yourself how fried your dopamine receptors are. Like for example, like there's kind of like a meme recently going around. It's like people say, "Oh, I ain't reading all that." You know what I mean? Like I ain't reading all that.
Hmm.
Right.
And like
Yeah.
that thing, like that is where that's all derived from, right? It's like you can't even get yourself to sit down and read like these two paragraphs that might have a lot more entertainment and value in it than like 50 TikToks would. But the fact that it takes a while for you to get the dopamine hit when you finish it, like you just can't bring yourself to do that, right? And I think that in large part stems from this like dopamine epidemic that we have.
Dude, I had friends that like use I ain't reading all that on exams.
Yeah.
Their brains were so fried from getting like short term and like quick easy information that like on exams like they were not like they couldn't focus long enough to read everything. But
Yeah, genuine.
actually there's something interesting that I just thought of. I wonder like so in the past like one big difference between like newspapers like TikTok or social media is hyper personalization, as in like
Mm-hmm.
TikTok instantly like starts hyper personalizing for you as soon as you start it.
Right.
Yes.
I wonder if this has made people more unique over time. Because like it seems like in the past, everyone like the information that people got were all from very similar sources, written in very similar ways. Like, and so like they must have been like close to objective, right? But now like
Right.
it's hyper personalized. Like if anyone has like it's like Inception. Like if anyone has like the slightest idea or like slightest interest, it's possible for it to spiral like crazy out of control because of like social media, which is, could be a good thing too, honestly. But
Yeah, that's one thing I think TikTok is like not effective at, but like one thing it's useful for is like I kind of like coined a term earlier, but like or like for myself, but basically just like finding new ideas that exist in the world. You know what I mean? Like say for example, like you could spend your entire life not knowing anything about like I don't know, like city planning, right? But you could like stumble like on a TikTok one day and you find it interesting, and like you go down the rabbit hole and like you start watching YouTube videos and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like a brand new branch of knowledge opened up for you because this like sprout that TikTok dropped. And like the fact that most of TikTok is consumed through the For You page, where it's just like generated content for you rather than following, which
right.
is like which is opposite to most social media platforms. That the idea discovery happens a lot more often on TikTok than it does on other platforms. And so I
Yeah.
guess yeah, that goes back to your point of like people becoming more um like personalized, or like I can't remember what you said specifically, but like yeah, because like you see so many new ideas and you can curate them to yourself.
Just to expand on that, because it's not just that people are getting more like getting more hyper personalized content fed to them. Just like not because backing away from social media a bit and talking about like the World Wide Web. We
Hmm.
we have the Library of Alexandria in our pockets these days. Like
Hmm.
people are not just like becoming consuming media more tailored to them. They're also becoming more aware of the world around them compared to before.
Yeah.
Because like for example, even like not even talking about politics or anything, like myself, like this is like a anecdote, but like do you like because we were all like brought up and born around the time at that transition was like happening and coming into full swing, right? Like
Right.
so do you two remember a time when you were like 5 or 6 and your parents would tell you something and you just believed it and wouldn't like question it at all? Whereas now, if a similar circumstance happens, you can just quickly search whatever they said on like Google, and you'll get back a result that'll either confirm or deny whatever they're claiming. Uh, and
I
and with that in mind,
I don't have
it,
a specific memory, but
Mhm.
I can kind of see where you're coming from. But at the same time, I think it has to be a conscious effort, and you have to have like you still have to critically think to a certain extent. Like you have to be willing to believe that you're wrong, right? For example, there's like the meme of like the Indian, or not Indian, but like South Asian like aunt and like uncle who are just
Yeah,
like send shit they find on WhatsApp. It's like, oh, the WHO said that wearing masks will give you cancer, and it'll be some like poorly photoshopped like PNG, and it'll become like very viral, right?
yeah.
It's very easy to disprove, and like they're all more than smart enough to be able to realize that the information is incorrect. But the fact that like it's spread to them and there's a lot of traction behind it, they are willing to believe it, right?
What? Wait, like how is it easy to disprove? Like I never understood this. Like to them, like their main source of true news is probably
Hmm.
still WhatsApp links. Like the majority of WhatsApp links are probably true, right?
Yeah,
It's probably like the occasional some that like our parents send us that are like
yeah,
complete
a
like
little troll.
clap like cap, right?
Yeah,
Um,
Yeah,
like for us, like my main source of like news is like Twitter, right? So like I'm very
yeah.
likely to believe something that comes across like I come across on Twitter, even if it's like straight cap. Like if I read like you should wear masks on Twitter, like I'd like have a bias towards wearing masks, but then like
Mm.
um, so like I wonder if it's just like a
I guess it's a difference in the way that we consume media. Like for example, like for myself, the way I judge often like the information I'm getting is like the source I'm getting it from. Like not like specifically like CNN or whatever, but like I get most of my news and information off YouTube. So like if there's a creator that I generally trust and I think that his ideas are like correct, I'll tend to believe them and I won't like fact check them. But and I guess like the like for our parents growing up, most of their like information, like political, economic, or otherwise, was disseminated through like news anchors, right? So they're willing to trust like the central entity, and that central entity has just shifted into the WhatsApp like group chat, right?
right.
I'm gonna come at this from a different take in that I think the reason why usually when they see that sort of thing that it becomes so hard to disprove. Generally, I agree that it likely comes from a place of trust, but there's also the fact that people don't like to be wrong, especially in like with other people observing. That and when you're older, this is just from what I can tell, you tend to have this idea that because you've grown like older and you've had more experiences than some of the other people around you, that
Hmm.
when it comes to interpretation of fact and truth, you with your greater wisdom and experience know better than the person you're speaking to. It is also what makes it really hard to communicate as like a younger person with an older audience because they tend to not really consider your opinion of like the same standard as someone as their equal.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely very prevalent, especially in South Asia, like the ageism
Mhm.
and like not trusting the opinions or information given to you by people younger than you. That's definitely present.
It's also that I find that it's much easier to change someone's mind if they see you as an equal and as a friend.
Hmm.
Because being called out by your friends, because like being called out by by those who you'd consider like your opposition, that doesn't mean anything. You expect that.
Yeah,
But if your friend looks at you and goes, "Dude, I don't know if you're right about this," you tend to have some doubts. And again, this is coming from my own personal anecdotes. But
yeah,
when I went through my like high school conservative phase, it was honestly middle school really, where I was like super right wing. I would listen to like Jordan Peterson and like Ben Shapiro and like you treat them like scripture.
yeah,
But I wasn't able to like get that rope to climb out of that well until like a close friend of mine called me out on my behavior and rhetoric, and I had
yeah.
some serious introspection.
You know what's interesting? Going back to Chris's idea of hyper personalization, right?
Hmm.
Maybe like part of the reason, like maybe that's not like all positive in terms of like actually having discourse over ideas because everybody's feeds are so personalized. It's very easy to fall into an echo chamber. Whereas, for example, say like in the 1950s, you're reading a newspaper, right? Everybody's gonna be reading the same newspaper, and the information there will be like relatively the same. People have differing opinions on that based on their own personal biases and how they live their life, and then discourse will occur naturally because it's the same source that we're talking about, right? Like for example, there's always like talk about like TV shows or whatever because everybody's watching the same thing. People have different interpretations of it. People like it in different ways or dislike it in different ways. And then like discourse happens. But like especially with the modern political climate of politics in general becoming like a touchy topic and people not wanting to discuss it in like like workplace environments and maybe only willing to discuss it like within like very close friend groups. Like I feel like maybe it might be a negative thing of hyper personalization in terms of actual discussion and back and forth of ideas. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, no, I get what you mean. It's look especially prevalent on an echo chamber because but I would argue from the standpoint like for example, let's use Alberta as an example.
Yeah.
Alberta is I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but Alberta is a very conservative province.
Oh shit.
No way,
Yeah,
really?
yeah, dude, it's crazy. I know. I'm finding this out now.
You don't say.
But but with that in mind, so here's the thing, right? I don't like the current prime minister. A lot of people don't like the current prime minister, but I cannot hold a candle to the pure vitriol and hatred that is felt by Albertan conservatives towards the current prime minister. To the point where, like, being around them is like their aura is seeping onto me, and I too want to hate Justin Trudeau. Like, I don't like the guy, to be honest. I really don't. But the fact that like just being present in this echo chamber made like myself just kind of go, yeah, fuck Trudeau. But
Dude,
why
Yeah.
though?
it's
Why?
like for the viewers out there, me personally, I have no preference. I am internet over democracy type of guy. But like I think Mohammed will feel this and I feel this too. Like after I went to Ontario, like no one really understood what it meant to have so many pickup trucks with fuck Trudeau stickers on the back. Like
Yeah.
there's so many here that like I cannot like even convey like what that's like to other people because they just live in a whole different universe.
Yeah. Honestly, more often than not, if you're driving on the highway and you're behind like a black Chevy, it's gonna have a fuck Trudeau sign somewhere on there.
Oh
It's
yeah,
honestly
dude.
insane.
I saw one time in like my high school parking lot a dude with a Confederate flag on it. I don't know what he was doing here, but like, go
That's
home.
gonna it's gonna mess.
Yeah, bro. It's like, look, I get it, man. We're in Sherwood. It's like it's pasty and white and rich, but like, come on.
Yeah.
Um,
But but do you think being just going back to like the topic, I guess, do you think being in that like the echo chamber, I guess you can call it, or like just like a place where your ideas are constantly challenged makes you a more sound and more like politically able leftist or like left-leaning person? Like for example, like I said this before, like not on the podcast, but in general, like I'm very glad that a lot of my friend group was not left-leaning and was like more centered center right, right, not Christian specific, but like other like some of our other friends are like more center right, right. So I liked having my ideas constantly challenged. Obviously it became kind of annoying when I was like like one of the only very far left leaning people in the group. It was like constantly me, but at a certain, or like within that, like the Westwood High School group specifically, not including abroad,
I see. Well,
right? But
you
like
gotta you
having
gotta
the
call me.
ideas no, Navarre is definitely a close friend, but within those discussions specifically that we used to have, it's like I liked having those ideas challenged, even if it like was certain at a certain point, because it made me question them like constantly and maybe like really consider like why do I believe this? Like where does this come from? Is there empirical proof of this? Stuff like that, right?
Yeah, I think it like depends mostly on um actually, wait, I don't think it matters. Like, I'm sure exposure to all different opinions and perspectives makes you a more like sound and stable person. Like, I don't think anyone will disagree to this. I think the
Hmm.
problem is like it's not what people want. Like, because we've tried this, right? Like with
Yeah.
newspaper, we tried like all diverse perspectives. With like old media, like in YouTube, like there was a lot of like when their recommendation algorithms weren't strong, basically
Hmm.
it
Yeah.
wasn't as popular as it is today. Like the
Yeah.
more hyper personalized that we've got, the more addicting like the consumption of media has got. So the problem
Yeah.
is like not that oh people won't be able to like become like sound, stable, like well versed individuals. It's like they don't care for it. They would rather like get the dopamine hit and call it a day,
Yeah. That's a very good
which is
point,
like
actually.
probably the bigger problem.
Right, yeah, most likely. And I guess just to answer Mohammed's question earlier, as the other radical leftist in the call, um, like
Goddamn
when it comes to
communist brother.
yeah, yeah, bro, communism. Uh, when it comes to like being in an echo chamber, being in Alberta as a leftist is the most frustrating thing in the universe. Which I will admit, yes, it has made it so like because I've had to defend my stances so heavily against not just like peers but my own family at times.
Mhm.
Because of my left leaning stances in a province with no real leftist strongholds. Period. Like Edmonton's probably the most left leaning city in Alberta, and it's like barely left of center. Like I'd argue it is center because that's what the NDP in Alberta is. Uh, but I also think because I also don't like being in a leftist echo chamber because then I'm just gonna I won't be
Yeah,
challenged
the left
anymore
definitely has
either.
problems too. Yeah, like
Well,
one thing, sorry to cut you off.
Wait,
One
yeah,
thing
go
I
ahead, go ahead.
genuinely hate about the left, and this is like a criticism that the right makes in a more like memeable way of like, oh,
Hmm.
the left hates each other and they're all canceling each other. And I think to an extent, I hate to admit it, but they're right. Like leftists hate to accept other leftists when it means like when they have slightly different values. Like I think the right is very good at uniting people. Like I mean, not under like I would argue a positive thing, but they're very good at uniting people across the board, no matter like they could be like barely center right, somebody who just like wants like 10% lower taxes, and like a guy who thinks that all Jewish people should be exterminated. Like okay, they're all like right, it's to some extent right. They'll all be like brought together under like, oh look, Donald Trump wants to like do this, or like this right wing candidate wants to do this, and they're very good at uniting their populace. But leftists, on the other hand, will find reasons to hate other leftists. It's like, oh, you're an anarcho-communist. Well, I'm actually a feudal Marxist, so I hate your guts and I hate like, your entire existence. You know what I mean? Like the smallest differences will like cause like the biggest upsets. I don't know
there's
that.
there's like a very cool lesson in this, and that is like unity and community comes very like much more easily with a common villain or a common enemy.
Mm,
And
Yeah.
so
So, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
now keep going.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So, because you saying common enemy is great for me to talk about how yes, Mohammed is correct. Leftist infighting is the most annoying thing in the universe, and like it's so frustrating because it gets in the way of like progressivism in general for leftists. But in terms of a common enemy, the right in the last 10-15 years has done an amazing, I mean a superb job at demifying the left to the point where like moderate people in the center think like when they think left wing they think of someone like screaming at you, virtue signaling to you, being elitist, looking down on you. Like they have unified everyone from center to right. I went left, but right,
Yeah,
uh, center to right under one block. Whereas like myself as a social democrat, if I were to get into a conversation with like a Marxist or like a hardline socialist, they'd hate my guts because they think I'm a traitor to like the ideals of socialism because I think like you shouldn't do away with the current system just like that.
yeah,
Wait, I'm actually okay. Before we end the podcast, I
Mhm.
want to know like each of you like give a couple sentences like explain like I'm five or I'm your grandma like why are you leftist, like why do you have the political view that you do? And I know it's like it will take a lot to get, like dive into, but like try and keep it brief. I want to like kind of get inside your minds.
sure,
Muhammad, you were one before me, so you take point on this.
sure, yeah. I'll try to be concise. I'm terrible at keep my thoughts concise, but essentially, I think that the left does a very good job of actually expressing the values that most people or the things that most people fundamentally value. So that freedom, economic and political freedom, the ability to express oneself, freedom of expression. I mean, just like freedom in general. I think is very succinctly captured by leftist policies in a way that right wing policies don't. And capitalism, like I'm obviously I'm like very more further left than a Raj would be. But I think capitalism is often at odds with these things, and like neoliberalism and our general understanding of capitalism is not fully compatible with these things. And so I argue that we need to break down the policies and try to achieve a future that's more based around people rather than based around corporations.
Interesting. Okay, and then Rush, go.
Yeah. So generally, I agree with most of what he said, and I guess I'll talk from a personal standpoint. One of the big things that shifted me to the left was right wing rhetoric. Because what I did is because part of me was like, see, to put it simply, I like democracy. I think that like the LGBTQ community is valid and that they deserve the right to happiness like anyone else on this planet, and they shouldn't be suppressed. I believe in freedom of expression, in freedom of religion. Like I said, I really like democracy, and I think that people shouldn't have to like suffer. There should be a safety net. I To boil it down, the reason I am like on the left is because I just want society to be kind. Like and yeah, so I am like like compared to Muhammad, I would like if we were in like an overturned window shifted all the way to the left, I would be like a right winger in that scenario because of my beliefs as a social democrat. uh, because I don't think we should do away with capitalism completely. And that's not because I like capitalism. I don't. Honestly, I agree with Muhammad. I think it makes people's lives worse. The reason I want to keep it around is because, as it stands, I can't see an alternative that doesn't like that's risks don't outweigh the benefits.
Yeah, honestly, I think Navarre did a much better job. I think we both honestly could have had like better ways of explaining it, but that's like a very rudimentary explanation of why I guess we're on the left. Wait, I mean, you don't have to say it if you don't want to, but like, where would you say you are politically in terms on the spectrum?
Um, well, I'm not scared of like saying my political standing.
Oh, go ahead, dude.
I think it's like
Yeah.
I think it's like very important to um yeah, I think it's very important that if you have a strong political like opinion, like you should voice it, right? Like it's very
Yeah,
like it's part of your core identity. Like it's what you like. You drive it based on your own personal values. I think,
Yeah.
as with a lot of things, I don't have a strong opinion here. Like, I'm
Mhm.
very willing to change it. But like after like even doing those like tests, like the political like standing
Yeah.
tests, I
Yeah.
I,
Like the
I
eight
was
values.
yeah, like where they give you the grid, like authoritarian, like
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
reactionary.
Okay. Some of those are all right. Some of them are not too great.
Yeah, I landed exactly in the middle, like smack dab in the middle when I did mine.
You filthy fence sitter!
Mm.
How dare? Nah, you're good.
Yeah, so I'm at a loss in terms of like personal like alignment with any like party. I do think that like I think I am a believer in capitalism though. Um, like from my eyes, it's like the ultimate democracy, and like it's unfortunate that um like people end up getting like screwed over by it. But I think like that's where you can create social nets. So I think like, Canada does like a pretty good job, honestly. Like it does like pretty good social nets. Obviously it's not like a dense country, so there's not many people to like give nets to. But yeah, I think I have to explore it more to like have a strong opinion.
Yeah, I think we're coming up on the 40-minute mark anyways, so maybe next episode we can kind of dive more into the political
If we
beliefs and
wanna debate
ideology.
it, I am more than happy to
Yeah, we
because
should we should get somebody who's like very like or like
someone who's
who's more
actually
who's, who's more right wing,
right.
more willing to like
Wait,
debate
we should
their
get
ideas.
decent. Let's get decent
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
next
I don't want to
podcast.
call him out, but yeah, let's get decent.
Does you want to invite him to bring a +1 since it'll probably be you and me, Mohammed?
Yeah, we'll get like
Nah,
decent and like Amber. No, I think okay. Honestly, okay. I think the
Amber's not even like that right wing in terms of like he wouldn't be like that willing to debate. Like I think he would like concede on like the more general like he agrees with like the ideas behind leftism. It's more like the nuances of like policy that he disagrees with.
I think the greatest political podcast crew would have to have like okay, it'd have to have decent. This guy's like on some next stuff.
Of course, of
Okay.
course.
It'd have to have like Mac and Navraj. These guys are like very like they're the only like proper leftists I know. Um
We're a
and
dying breed.
it would also have to have Saptarshi. Like Saptarshi because like he's like so neutral in his like decision making and like questioning. Like he's like absolutely required for political debates.
Dude,
Um
Taprashi turned socialist for a little while, then he went to Waterloo and you all corrupted him.
Well, if you went
We'll
to
bring him
Waterloo, you should
back.
have been more socialist.
Wait,
I think you went to
actually,
Waterloo and like saw what like the more like socialist y like life would be, and then he was like, "Yeah, this is not it."
damn.
But yeah, we'll have to get him on to like ask his opinion. But the idea is like that's the crew we should get. So next podcast, let's like just do a fun political date. Like this was like kind of like baby politics. I'll be mediator. Like honestly, I'll learn from this. So I guess that's the plan.
Yeah.
Okay, cause like I was listening to you talk about that, and like I hate that I had to restrain myself when you were
Yeah,
like discussing capitalism, because I was like, oh boy, I gotta like I'll bust out Adam Smith, the father of it, to talk about how he'd have a problem
Yeah,
with how it
honestly,
is right
Navraj is way
now.
better at debating than me. I kind of just have like some bullshit ideas that are swirling around in my head that like just puke out every once in a while.
yeah. Like
I
this
had. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
the sad part about like working in politics and like the reason that I've decided like not to do it because it seems really fun and it seems like very impactful.
But
But
it's so frustrating.
no, it's reversible, right? Like
Hmm?
it's
Yeah,
politics is
that's true.
reversible. Like you serve a
Well,
4 year
that's what
term
you mean.
and then the next person can reverse it. But if you
Yeah.
build a company like Apple, there's no post Apple life where you can where you can't imagine the impact that Apple had. Like even if Apple as a company dies right now, like its impact will like ripple throughout like the centuries. But like I couldn't name the like
Yeah,
12th prime minister if I
yeah,
tried.
no, you're right. And like the world in general probably goes through like ups and downs of like moving toward like more leftist, more right wing policies, and just like constant back and forth. So like every like 2 generations, the previous generation's work was meaningless to a certain extent. Obviously, it's not like that simple because like there's overall political trends within like the world and like how history like progresses. But like that's an interesting viewpoint from somebody who's like very keen on like progressing the world and like technology as a whole. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, shout out to Dhwani. This guy, he's the one who explained it to me. If you're listening, but yeah,
All right,
Uh,
guys. I think we're gonna call it there. This podcast has been brought to you by Young Cash Harvester, aka Little Broomstick. This is Mac signing off.
Zifa, bro.
It was a request. I had to fulfill it. Shout
uh,
out Wasim.
I, I, it's your boy Krish. We're gonna head out now. Stay tuned for the next episode 7 of the Drawing Board. Peace.
Peace.
Bye.